the Everything But Politics podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of the Everything But Politics podcast. I've been super freaking excited for this episode for a while now. We have one of the most badass dudes on the entire internet here with us today, Keaton Hoskins, aka The Muscle. Keaton is an entrepreneur, mentor, business coach, and father, and we couldn't be more excited to have him here today. Keaton, appreciate you joining the Everything But Politics podcast.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited. I appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here with you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate you as well. But Keaton, something I want to jump right into. You just recently put together one of the most amazing entrepreneurial events, arguably of the last decade, there in Salt Lake City, Limitless Arena. Some of the notable speakers were David Goggins, Gary Vee, Ed Mylett. What was the feedback to your event?
You know what, man? I got amazing feedback. I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy. And the only thing I wanted out of the whole event was for those who came to leave there without feeling like it was just another event to be sold some shit at. I wanted actual value. That was my biggest piece to this entire thing. I wanted people to feel like there was no other reason to have this other than to create the value that we seek to give to people. And essentially, that's what we did.
Yeah, the clips online looked amazing. How did you even go about putting such an event together, renting out the stadium and reaching out to those amazing speakers?
You know, luckily for me, I'm able to create relationships with a lot of great people. Ed Mylett's a very good friend. Andy Frizzell is a very good friend. In fact, every one of those guys are very good friends, except for Gary Vee. That was the first time that I met Gary Vee. He was one of the only speakers that I had to pay, obviously. But I create relationships with people. The greatest thing in the whole world that I could ever teach anybody, especially somebody like me who doesn't have a ton of talents and skills, you want to make money, you got to learn how to really, really network with people. And that's not walk around in rooms and shake hands. That is come to the table and offer value to somebody without asking for anything in return and becoming another transactional character like everybody else. So for me, I've learned how to do that, and I've created these wonderful relationships, and now this is what I do.
Keaton, that was one of the things I was curious and interested in asking you about is networking. Obviously, like you said, providing value is so essential. But say someone listening to this is maybe more on the introverted side, doesn't love to, put themselves out there. What advice would you give them in terms of obviously networking, putting yourself out there, and then of course providing value?
What's the rating on your podcast? Is it like PG-13? What do we got here?
You say whatever you want.
You got.
Okay. My advice to somebody like that is to make a choice. Either you stay poor or you stop being a bitch. I get it. I'll tell you, most successful people are introverted. Most of them are. They just made the decision that they wanted to become fucking rich more than they wanted to be a bitch and stay at home and be an introvert. I get it. Dude, I'm an introvert. You would never know that because I put time and energy into being out there meeting people. But I'll tell you this, I had to take 2 days off from seeing or talking to anybody except for my family after the event because I was so emotionally and mentally worn out of talking and being on and just doing all of that shit. For anybody who's listening who's introverted, well, I don't want to meet them, then stay broke and poor. That's what your choice is. Get your ass out there, do what needs to be done, or accept you're going to be poor and work a 9 to 5, stay in a little cubicle, and live a mediocre life. That's the truth.
Love that. Yeah. Speaking of badass like motherfuckers that you're talking about, Goggins. I'm currently in the middle of the second book, never finished. What's it like being around that guy?
He's the biggest introvert I've ever met, truthfully.
Wow.
He came to my house the night of my VIP party. He came into my office, the one I'm in right now, and it's very quiet in here. It's all soundproofed. And there was probably 300 people here. And he was like, hey, man, do you mind if I just sit in here for a little while? And I said, sure, dude, whatever you want. He said, I got to kind of prepare myself to go out and interact with people. I just don't really like to do that. And I said, I get it, man. I'm the same as you. I got to get energy to go do that. He sat in my office for an hour. And we talked. We had really good conversations. Introverts like to have deep conversations. They don't like surface shit, right? After he was here for an hour, he walked out there. He spent about 20 minutes talking to people. And then he was like, hey, man, I'm going to bounce. This is just too many people for me. He's a badass. He's a stud, but he's also an introvert who has learned to do what he must to get what he seeks. And there's no other exception for anybody else.
Yeah. So Keaton, making a little switch here, going back into like your early days and your upbringings, do you kind of give our listeners a little background on your upbringing and what it was like for you growing up?
Yeah, I was really blessed. I had a wonderful father and a wonderful mother who were very imperfect, made lots of mistakes, but they were so great for us. They taught us a ton of stuff. My father was always sick, and he was always teaching me the importance of a 9 to 5, get your college degree, 401k, safety, safety, safety. And when I was 21 years old, I watched him die. And the last 2 years of his life, I watched his company, who he was the CEO of. I watched his company just throw him away like nothing mattered. And I realized really, really quickly that there's no such thing as safety in life. So if there's no safety, why wouldn't you chase every fucking dream you've ever had in your life? Why would you sit back and allow being scared or fear to dictate what you do in your life? The truth is, if you're comfortable, you're mediocre. That's the truth. If you're uncomfortable and you're scared and you're nervous and you're at risk, you're doing what you should be doing. That should honestly be a measurement of how you run your life. I'm not saying you need to be on the edge of your seat all the time, but if you're not doing shit on a daily basis that scares you and makes you uncomfortable, then you are sipping on mediocrity. That's just what it is.
And at what point did you adopt that principle you mention all the time, create the life you want?
As soon as I realized that I actually had the life that I wanted, which was a few years ago. I tell people all the time, I get on stages all the time, I'm not the richest person in the world. Limitless Society is not meant to just make you rich. That's not what it's meant for. That's not even what I coach for, right? But I'll tell you what I am. I'm a very, very, very rare person who will tell you to your face that I am living the exact life that I want. I am. I have the health that I seek. I have the health of my children. I have a beautiful relationship with my wife. I have money. I have great fame. I have friends. There's just no part of my life that is not firing on all 8 cylinders. My relationship with God is beautiful. Every single aspect of my life is exactly the way that I dictated it. I built it. So I realized that a few years ago, looking around like, holy shit, this is literally the life that I dreamed of. Every piece of it. Most people will never be able to say that to you and be honest. They won't. A lot of rich people will tell you that, but that's not true. Most rich people have focused only on money, and money brings nothing but stress. It just doesn't. If you make money and you have a good relationship with everybody around you, that's very, very, very rare. And I realize that. So what I teach and my whole purpose now in life is, if I'm able, in all of my imperfections, if I'm able to create the exact life I want, why is everybody else not able to do that? And I don't believe that they're not. So I decided, you know what? I have the life I want and I can show people how to get it. You have to work at everything. I teach 5 pillars. Number 1, you need to work on your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, your spiritual health, and your financial health. If you can focus and work on all 5 of those, and listen, I'm not saying I'm perfect. That's not what I'm saying. But if you can focus and balance and work like a savage on all 5 of those areas, you legitimately will create the exact life that at some point in your life you sought, that you think is out of touch or out of reach because you've given up on it. And I've realized those things. So for me now, I'll tell you, I'm not the richest. I'm not the most ripped. I don't have the greatest relationship in the whole world. I'll tell you what, man, I'm 95% in every single one of those categories. And that to me is true success.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned these 5 pillars. When your father does pass and you're what you call yourself now, the man of the house, did you have any of this running through your head at the time? I mean, when your father passes, how does your life shift from that day forward?
I mean, dude, I was the oldest of 5 children. And throughout my father being sick, he laid the mantle on me often. Hey, you're going to become the patriarch of the family. You're going to be the leader. You're going to be the one that has to take care of everybody. I don't necessarily think that was healthy. And I also don't think that, it was fair, but I'm really glad that he did that because it built who I am. It gave me an expectation that I put on myself that I continually strived for. So when my father passed away, I knew I had to take care of my mother. I knew I was going to have to take care of my siblings. I knew I was going to have to lead. I knew I was going to have to be successful. And it essentially set me up to become who I am today. I mean, 100%. This year, I was able to retire my mother, which was awesome. In the last 2 or 3 years, I paid for the homes of my siblings, some cars. I've taken care of that which is mine. And for me, when my father passed, I had that mantle pass, and I realized that it was a huge responsibility that I could easily fill.
Yeah. And Keaton, after you do your beginning work with the gyms and then kind of make your way to Diesel Brothers, how did that kind of change your growth through social media? Because you're huge on social media now, and a lot of your sales are through online sales. Was that a big turning point for you financially?
So I've built just over 35 companies in the last 15 years.
Okay.
I had built 6 companies before we started the show, Diesel Brothers, and Diesel Brothers itself was an actual business that I helped build.
Yeah.
The show helped us to gain some traction in becoming popular with people. And when you become popular on social media and on TV, people take you a little bit more serious. They just do. I wasn't ever really able to make a ton of money on the show. I just wasn't. Most people think we made tons of money. We didn't make very much money at all. But what I realized is it put me in the rooms with the right people to create the right relationships. And all through the TV show, I actually started 6 or 8 businesses during the TV show, along with businesses that I actually still own. And since the TV show, I've launched 10 or 15 more businesses. The truth is I've been able to be successful in building businesses from the ground up. Some of them are online. Some of them are brick and mortar. Some of them they're just all over the place. There's really simple principles and habits that it takes to start and launch and become successful in a business. There just is. That's one of the things that I teach in Limitless Society. The TV show absolutely helped me to get into the right rooms with the right people. It gave me the ability to network with the right people and meet the right people. It gave me a platform to speak on. We had about 200,000. I had about 200,000 followers on Facebook before the TV show ever took off. So, I had a decent amount of following.
Yeah.
After the TV show, I had about 900,000 followers on Instagram. Since then, I've grown to, 1.6, 1.5, whatever it is. Most of my growth has been off of the TV show, but it was a huge platform that allowed me to have, essentially what I have now. So it was a huge blessing. But I do get into a little bit of a defense mode because most people think my success came from there.
Yeah.
And truthfully, there wasn't much money to be had out of that show.
Wait, Keaton, 35 companies is fucking insane. Like, how do you manage your time with all that going on?
Oh, that is the number one rule to a successful entrepreneur is time management. Most people think that they're busy. And the truth is you're not busy. There's 162 hours in a week, if I remember correctly. After now I want to actually do the math because I want to make sure I do these numbers right. But dude, after you do 7 days a week times 24 hours, so 168 hours. Okay. There's 168 hours in a week. If you sleep 8 hours a day, that leaves you 112. If you have a full-time job, you got 40. That leaves you with, what is that? 72. So after a full-time job, you still have 72 hours in a week. Now, let's say you're like me and you work 60 hours a week. Well, now you have, 52 hours left. Okay. So now I spend 1 hour a day on myself. That leaves me with 45 hours. I spend 1 hour a day with my children, 1 hour a day with my spouse. That leaves me now we're at 30 hours. So with work, personal, family, relationships, I still have 30 hours a week after sleeping The truth is most of us don't realize how much time we actually have. We waste a fuckload of time. So for me, I learned really fast. I'm able to, when I can kind of give out jobs, hire CEOs, delegate, I can do a lot of things. Right now, I currently own 5 companies. I have CEOs in every one of my companies. I even have a CEO in Limitless Society. The truth is if you figure out how to time manage and how to delegate, there's so much more that you could be doing than you're doing right now. And that's what I teach. That's why I teach people what's so cool is I can show you how to become a millionaire. It's not hard. I don't even care if you become a millionaire. I care that you become so much more than that. A better father, a better husband, a better man, a better business owner, rich. All of those things is what you really should be seeking. And again, if you go all the way back to what your original question was, dude, 168 hours a week, what the fuck are you doing with your time right now? I sure as shit know people ain't working 40 hours a week. Working 40 hours a week is a lot. I work 60 and I work like a madman, and I still have 52 hours a week to do other things.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize you needed an assistant?
Oh, dude, I've had an assistant for almost 15 years.
Wow.
I mean, dude, I had an assistant when I was 24 years old.
Really? 24?
Yeah, I just always knew that I was not going to do the $10 to $15 an hour shit. I wasn't going to make my bed, but I wanted my bed made. I wasn't going to pay my bills, but my bills need to get paid. I wasn't going to answer emails, but I need to answer emails. I've always, from as long as I can remember, had an assistant.
But another thing I've come to notice about successful people is that a lot of them had to overcome a hump in their life, whether that be a bad habit or a relationship. Did you ever have to kick anything out of your life to get where you are today?
Oh, dude, all the time. The truth is nobody's getting over, no one's walking straight to success. It's always hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. But here's what's important to understand. If the real question is, how do you do it? It's you focus on progress. If all you ever do is focus on progress, you will get to where you seek. The problem is most of us stop progressing at like 22 years old. And then by 30, you're on autopilot. And then by 50, you've had a shithole life that's mediocre. And then at 60, you retire and you look back that you wasted 60 years of your fucking life.
Yeah. Keaton, someone like myself who's 22, what are like the most important habits I should adapt to be successful?
Number one, I would say, is time management. You need to figure out how to time manage 100%. If you're wasting time, like, dude, you could be, and I don't know how successful you guys are. You guys could be a millionaire by the time you're 25 if you put in the time and the work, 100%. Okay. So time management is a big one. Number two, you need to figure out how to stop giving a fuck about what people think. Most people, when they're young, they worry so much about what people think. Guess what, dude? Nobody fucking, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. Nothing I have to say about you pays your bills. Nothing you have to say about me helps me in any way to pay my bills. I don't give a shit about your opinions. As soon as you solidify this, you will gain the one thing that is the most important tool, or the most important trait, I should say, and that's confidence. If you do two things, figure out how to time manage and gain true confidence, you will be more successful than you could possibly imagine. Two things. That's it, dude.
Thanks.
I think that's one of the great expression that Tiger Woods' dad used to tell him. Like, the expression's KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I feel like that's exactly how you just put it.
Oh, dude, I could listen. I could go into a whole book about what you need to do at 22 years old. No, dude, learn how to time manage and become confident as fuck, and watch how well you go. I mean, again, dude, most people would never even have the confidence to message me and say, hey, man, can I get you on the podcast? They just wouldn't, because they think that it's too far away. And so with the lack of confidence, they don't get what you're getting right now, which is me on a podcast with you, right? That's cool as shit.
Yeah.
It comes because of the confidence. So the reality is, for you guys, like, dude, if I could build your confidence, dude, I can build a millionaire in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, and Keaton, this has definitely been one of our best episodes. Before we let you go, Your nickname is the Muscle. So for our listeners, how did you get that nickname? And then we want to ask you some fitness questions.
So, I definitely didn't give myself that name. Diesel Dave did on our TV show. I hate that name. I think it's kind of douchey, but it's what I branded myself as. So that's just what it is.
Yeah.
I'm 300 pounds. I'm 6'3", and I like to lift weights a lot. So I have always, in any conversation and negotiation, I've always been the muscle. I'm the one that pulls in, that puts the deal and gets the deal done. I will push until I get shit done. So that's where the nickname came from.
And how old were you when you began like pushing weight?
I've been lifting weights since I was 16.
And were you playing football then? Why did you start lifting weights?
Yeah, I played high school and then I played college. And then I came home I was a Mormon missionary. I came home from being a missionary. And I decided that I just loved lifting. So I was just going to keep doing it. So I've done it ever since. It's been my stress reliever. I became a bodybuilder in somewhere around 2012. I did bodybuilding for a little while. Then I did some powerlifting. But at the end of it, I didn't care about everything. I just loved lifting weights.
So at this point in time, what's your daily routine looking like?
For training,
Yeah.
it's kind of simple. I go to the gym. I run anywhere from 2 to 3 miles. I lift weights for about 45 minutes. And then 3 days a week, I do a sauna and an ice bath. And that's kind of my routine weekly.
Have you always prioritized recovery, or is that new to you?
Always. I've gone 1,000,000 miles an hour since I was 18 years old. And if I can't recover and I can't sleep, I would most likely be dead.
Wow.
Okay. And in terms of nutrition, how many times a day are you eating, and what are your meals usually consist of?
So I have a chef here at my house that cooks for me. My meals are always usually the same. I have 5 eggs in the morning, and then after my workout at 11, I'll have 10 eggs with mixed berries. Then I'll have another meal of 10 ounces of steak and mixed berries again. And then I'll finish the night with 10 ounces of chicken. And then I'll right before I go to bed, I do a protein shake. So 4 to 5 meals a day.
Is it always consistent like that, or do you have cheat days, or is that what you just?
I definitely have cheat days. I would be shredded if that's all I ate. I do usually Saturday I'll have a cheat meal, and Sunday I'll have a cheat meal.
Okay. Well, Keaton, you are an absolute fucking savage. We're so appreciative of you coming on our show. Hopefully we can do this again down the road, but for the time being, really appreciative of you and your time. We know how busy you are, and really just can't tell you how grateful we are. So thank you, Keaton.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate being on, fellas.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.